How can you reach your full potential? How can you focus without judgment? How can you end autopilot? We will find out on this episode, which is the second of 7 podcasts in this series I call Mindfulness and Awakening, Reduce Stress, and Find Fulfillment. I am not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist. I have no high degrees in any of the psychological sciences. I am a writer with a communications degree, and I have worked as a journalist, editor, and freelance writer for most of my life. I have self-published a few fiction books under my name and other nonfiction books under pseudonyms, and I have worked as a ghostwriter, covering many topics, and I have learned a lot through those experiences. I am also a dad, a combat veteran, and a minimalist outdoorsman. I like to hike, backpack, camp, and run trails. I have always enjoyed life without riches and material things, and the company of friends and my kids has always been enough. In other words, I don't need much to be happy, but I am still a person that is capable of allowing society and individual people influenced by society to determine if I am a failure or a success, both on a personal and professional level, to determine whether or not I should be happy or miserable based on the things I have accomplished and the material things I have accumulated. I was firmly situated inside of a hamster wheel, thinking I had traction when I wasn't going anywhere. I was playing the game, as I continually thought, maybe tomorrow things will change, even though I was just reacting the best I could to external circumstances instead of taking action to create better circumstances. Then, while researching for a writing project, I came across mindfulness, and it sounded promising to me. I wrote extensively about it and then put the information away and went about my business of being mediocre, depressed, and anxious as I toiled away in a noxious, ill-fitting relationship that compounded my depression, anxiety, and fatigue. I was unhealthy and useless. And then the relationship was gone. A relationship I had grown dependent on. I took a long, deep breath that lasted days before pulling out my notes on mindfulness as I began the search for the promising person I once knew. That promising person was me. And guess what? I found me. Down a long, dark hallway, covered up in trauma and confused ideas about myself. And with the help of mindfulness, I observed the trauma and the confused ideas, and then watched as they passed by me like leaves in a flowing stream. I still have a ways to go to a complete rejuvenation of the self, but I am off the hamster wheel and creating real traction. We are here today because I want this for you as well. We can all gain mental stability and find the person that existed before the trauma, before we constructed unhealthy notions about ourselves, by committing to our mental health and becoming mindful. We will never find complete contentment until we reach our full potential, which allows us to live freely within our circumstances. But we must first break down a few barriers to get there. If you have been searching through various self-help programs to provide you with methods to realize your full potential without success, thankfully you found yourself here. In the past, you might have read that you need to take on new interests or self-affirm your best qualities on your way to self-realization. But what you might have found out quickly is that those things provide only temporary solutions. Mindfulness takes a proper and coherent approach to living at your full potential. By practicing mindfulness, you remove your negative self-image and replace it with self-awareness and self-compassion. From there, you make conscious choices with a spotlight on your priorities. Sometimes we fail to realize our full potential because of overconfidence. Through an excess of self-belief, our over-optimism regarding success in an ultra-competitive world leads us to disappointment repeatedly. However, most of us are far more likely to feel an altogether different illusion that we are not good enough. And because of this notion, we fail to believe in ourselves, thereby never reaching our full potential. For example, we might harshly judge ourselves, and through those judgments that are a response to external cues, we develop unreal attitudes and expectations of ourselves, which can be either positive or negative. Mindfulness helps us keep perspective and see the whole of life. Here are some examples of positive and negative cues. Your day starts great, or your day starts badly. You do more than you expected you could do, or you do less than you expected you could do. You give a great presentation, or you give a bad presentation. You receive praise from office leadership, or you receive criticism from office leadership. Your day ends great, or your day ends badly. Mindfulness puts all of these notions away by allowing them to pass us with a brief observation as if they were leaves in a flowing stream. We do this because they do not contribute to our fullest potential. Through mindfulness attention, we become aware of our habitual thinking patterns and choose to focus our attention on the authenticity of the present experience. Self-criticism or praise will only ensnare us if we engage with it for too long. Have you ever heard of resting on your laurels? We become enamored with our accomplishment, and as we pat ourselves on the back, our gears grind to a halt and momentum is lost. Or we decide that we have failed or aren't good enough, and we bury ourselves in self-pity. By being mindful, we learn to notice the pattern so we avoid the trap and break the habit by staying in the current moment. Some people get confused when attempting to define self-realization or fulfillment of one's potential, because the temptation is to call it an achievement. Achievement aligns itself with the overtones of words like respect or acclaim in the public eye, or among our peers. For example, if a father chooses fatherhood over a professional career, one might imagine that choice as being an inferior life decision. However, if personal priorities lead to a man becoming a full-time father or reducing their hours and professional growth potential to spend more time with their children, that course of action automatically becomes superior. When we become confused about the meaning of self-realization, mindfulness clarifies our true priorities and prevents guilt from appearing when we reject one option for another option, regardless of societal stigmas. Self-realization, or your true potential, comes from following a schedule of mindfulness meditations. As your training progresses, the following ideas become unspoken expressions of what you will believe about yourself as an entity in the world. I am entirely me, and never the sum of what other people might think about me, and I choose my priorities based on what I find relevant to my life. I choose my goals through my own criteria for success, and I am totally committed to my intentions while I am cautious of my expectations. I understand my feelings and choose which ones in which to act upon. I change my priorities and goals as my circumstances change or evolve, and I accept what happens to me without frustration. When practicing mindfulness, you are not necessarily concentrating your efforts in any one area. Remember, you are becoming your full potential and on a path to self-realization. Do not focus on building strengths or correcting weaknesses. Mindfulness is not about those things at all, though those things will occur. Do not become single-minded in your pursuits. You are looking to become intuitive and aware to become a better whole. Mindfulness involves a focused mind that is paying attention to the present moment. Inside of mindfulness, you make no judgments. Do the following exercise in order to understand better how focusing without judgment works. Get in a sitting position in a chair and mindfully focus on the moment. Concentrate your attention on your breathing, on each breath that enters and leaves your body. Then, direct your thoughts to the pressure of the chair's edge against your thighs. The pressure you feel on your thighs is there every single time you sit in a chair to chat, eat, write, or read, but you never notice it. When you shine a spotlight on the feeling of the edge of the chair on your legs, it becomes a part of your consciousness. This is an example of a focused mind that is paying attention to the present moment. However, while sitting mindfully and focusing on the sensation of the chair against your thighs, you are likely to be distracted even as you shine your spotlight on that one area. It is difficult for anyone to control completely his or her thinking because minds tend to wander. You smell something, you hear something, or you feel other things that pull away your attention. Alternatively, your thoughts might drift to your obligations at home or work or other stresses in life. These fragments of feelings and thoughts will show themselves from the nether of your unconsciousness. The thoughts or feelings might be trivial. They might be indistinct anxieties that tighten your neck and shoulders, or they might be definite emotions of fear, anger, frustration, joy, or love. Then the judgment comes. You make judgments when you talk to these distractions, saying, I don't want this thought or feeling in my head right now because it is ruining my mindfulness practice. While practicing mindfulness, you are not supposed to make judgments regarding any invading notions. Instead, you register that you are aware of them and notice how you react to them, and then you consciously refocus your awareness on your breathing and your thighs again. By adding judgmental thoughts on top of the invading thoughts, you are compounding the issue. In other words, you can have thoughts and feelings, but do not engage with them. Allow them to pass like leaves on a moving stream. We call this mindfulness in action. The following situations show judgment in action, beginning with the thought, then the emotion, followed by the judgment. You are on a first date, and you have the thought, I might not be able to maintain a conversation with my date. And the emotion becomes anxiety, which results in the judgment to limit what you say. Your mother is struggling with depression, and you have the thought, Mom is having a really difficult time right now. And the emotion becomes concern, which results in the judgment that your mother might need counseling. You are not honest with your husband when he hurt your feelings, and you have the thought, my husband should know the truth about how I feel, and emotion becomes frustration, which results in the judgment that you need to be more assertive and truthful during arguments. While practicing mindfulness, you simply acknowledge the thoughts and feelings without judgment ensnaring you. It isn't that the thoughts are unimportant, that your mother's health isn't important, that your spousal relationship isn't important. So that is why we note them and the emotion. But the judging takes us down a road that might never end. So the judgment becomes leaves in a moving stream as we focus on the practice itself. Certainly, addressing these issues in a mindful way is the correct course of action, but they cannot be addressed in a real way in that moment while practicing mindful meditation. Here are some other less complex judgments while practicing mindfulness. My neck hurts. I need to schedule a massage appointment. I smell a strange odor. I need to find the source of the odor and correct it. I hear the neighbor mowing the yard. He always mows at the worst times. Resist all temptation to make judgments, because they will lead you deep into unwanted thoughts and feelings, which pull you from being in the moment. Make a note of them and let them go, and do it over and over again. If the process makes you uncomfortable, it is working. Autopilot is the exact opposite of mindfulness, because when you act without self-awareness, you are disengaged from the present and stuck inside a loop of habits that formed in the distant past. By letting go of our automatic actions, we escape the tug of the past, which provides us with a better chance of ongoing happiness. Autopilot helps us carry out the basic functions of life, like eating and walking without taking up all our attention. It enables us the ability to learn new skills, such as typing or driving, because the activity becomes automatic. For example, when you drive to your office, you might remember nothing about the trek because it becomes automatic. By removing self-awareness from the activity, our mind can multitask and can move on to things that require our conscious attention. However, autopilot is not always on our side, in particular in the way we process our emotions, because we are conditioned to reflect on how we once felt about an experience. Therefore, we draw conclusions based on that feeling from the past. The issue is that we often automatically offer the same emotional reaction to similar situations, even though the past outcome was not ideal. In other words, while on autopilot, the mind takes its cues from the past, and we might not realize the unlimited options that are available to us, which might produce far better results. We do not have to be fearful, frustrated, anxious, or angry by a situation just because it made us fearful, frustrated, anxious, or angry in the past. Moreover, consciously going about breaking the established habits by acting in a determined way is not a good way to overcome them either, because active resistance often strengthens the pattern. What you need to do is to think mindfully. By training to live in the present, we can relate to all our experiences with acceptance rather than a harsh judgment. Thereby, we become grounded and flexible in our responses. When mindfulness takes the wheel, autopilot disappears because we no longer need it. This takes a lot of practice. In the meantime, while practicing daily for 5 to 10 minutes or more, here are some ways to shape up your routines in order to disrupt established patterns. Leave your mobile phone behind. We are used to the comfort found in a sense of connection to the world when we have our phone, but never experience solitary moments anymore. Find out what it feels like to be without your phone. Talk to someone you have never talked to before. Have a chat with someone you have never spoken to at the office, or your neighbor, or a stranger while shopping or traveling. Autopilot undermines our sense of real connections outside of our friends, family, and work peers. Find out what others offer. Do something new with your significant other, children, or close friend. Take a road trip to an unfamiliar destination. Find out what it feels like to break out of your routines and awaken your relationship. Break from your regular route. Take a new path to work or home to open up your senses. Stop someplace along the way and experience a new park, restaurant, or shop. Find out where a new route might take you. Tackle that chore or project. You have a project or chore that has been sitting in an ongoing state of procrastination. You have been avoiding it, but it must be done. So schedule a time to make it happen. The sooner the better. Find out what it feels like to give it your full attention. If we live our emotional lives on autopilot, we repeat past mistakes and experience the same crisis repeatedly. so we never move on and evolve. Mindfulness brings our patterns of emotions into awareness, which equips us to realize our full potential. The following provides examples of the autopilot way and the mindful way. We react with habit on autopilot, and we respond with awareness when mindful. We neglect realities on autopilot, and we accept realities when mindful. We miss the details on autopilot, and we notice the details when mindful. We neglect our potential on autopilot, and we realize our potential when mindful. We reenact established patterns on autopilot, and we see the big picture when mindful. We emptily relive the past on autopilot, and we fully live in the present when mindful. We have limited choices on autopilot, and we have many choices when mindful. We repeat past emotions on autopilot, and we have fresh emotions when mindful. We enjoy life's pleasures less on autopilot, and we enjoy life's pleasures more when mindful. Thanks for listening. On the next episode, we explore the mindful revolution, learn how mindfulness brings happiness, and we discover the importance of living in the present. This is R. Smith. Some people call me Robin. Some people call me Bird. Either way, this is a Balefire podcasting production. Until next time, enjoy the moment.